Basket Girl, Ambi Nicole here, and today I have a totally rad video for you guys. I have decided to go ahead and tag myself in the tag I was unaware of before yesterday, but the 90s tag. Some of the most amazing, hilarious, ridiculous, goofy, and smart things came out of the 90s in my opinion. Without further ado, let's get into the tag. Number 1, favorite TV show. All of these I can already see are going to be completely loaded questions. I will do my best to keep it short and sweet, but I can't make any promises because I love the 90s. Okay, so once again, question number 1, favorite TV show. I've got a few. If you were anything like my brothers and I, you may recognize that little song and dance I had in the beginning of my video from The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Are You Afraid of the Dark was another super important show in my childhood. It was a Nickelodeon show. It was about this group of kids. I think it was the Midnight Society. They would have a campfire and they would tell spooky stories, and it was amazing. Rewatch it. You can probably find it somewhere on YouTube, to be honest with you. Look it up. It is so worth it. I've got to at least mention 2 more. Rocko's Modern Life. Salute your shorts. Camp on Awana. We hold you in our hearts. And when we think about you, it makes me wanna fart. You guys, make sure you comment down below if you were also fans of any of these things. If I make any references that are relevant to you, let me know. Number 3, favorite toy. My Easy Bake Oven was one of my favorite toys. Also, my Game Boy Color. I think that was the 90s when I got that. That was just like crazy new technology to me, and I could play Pokemon games on it. As you can see, I'm a pretty avid Pokemon fan to this day, so playing that on Game Boy, especially the Game Boy Color, it was like, wow. Pokemon in living color. Number 3, favorite commercial. I liked the Sock 'em Bop-'ems commercial and the song that went with that. I loved the Creepy Crawlies commercial. Things were a little weird in the 90s. Things were really goofy. It was a good time. Number 4, Nsync or Backstreet Boys. I just know that back then I preferred Backstreet Boys for whatever reason. I was honestly more of a Spice Girls kind of girl, so it was, eh. Number 5, weirdest fashion trend. There was a lot of them. I think that the bowl cuts, the haircuts that everyone would give their boys, it would literally cut off in a bowl shape, right here. You would use a bowl and cut around it. Number 6, favorite collectibles. I was super into Beanie Babies. Me and my brothers and I were into Pogs. I would collect the sound clips. If you guys remember, it was this weird and pretty much useless little device where you would get this little player and stick these little keychain sound bites about this big into it, and it would play 20 seconds, if that, of a song, and you would just keep buying them to hear 20 seconds of whatever song you were super into at the time. Next question, favorite Beanie Baby. I had this really big frog that actually had more plush in it than it did beans. I don't remember the name of it. It was red, but I really loved that thing, and I used to spray my Juniper Breeze from Bath & Body Works on it. Question 8, how many Tamagotchis did I go through? And by that, I think they mean how many Tamagotchis did I kill? I killed a lot. My dad claimed he took them to work for me to feed them and clean up their doo-doo and stuff like that, but I don't think he did. So by the time I got home, they were all just dead. There was nothing I could do. I remember I went to my first vacation in Florida, and I went to a flea market and bought all these generic versions of the Tamagotchi, and I loved them just as much, so I ended up with a bundle this big. I would carry around like a gangster of my rip-off flea market Tamagotchis. I thought I was so freaking cool. Maybe I was so freaking cool. Number 9, favorite game, console, and game. That's a toughie because I was born in '88, so I legit went through all of them. I had the old Sega, the old Nintendos, I had the GameCube, or wait, the N64 came before the GameCube. That was a really important one to me because that had the Ocarina of Time on it. So I guess if we're gonna go 90s route, I will honestly have to say that that was the one. In the early 90s, I played a lot of Duck Hunt on the old Nintendo, so if that counts as a 90s game, that is truly my deep down first game I ever got into, love of my life. But PS1 was amazing. PS1 had Silent Hill 1, like Resident Evil. There were so many good things going on in the 90s as far as games. Nintendo 64, you had like Rayman and Banjo-Kazooie and just so much fun all over the place. Question number 10, favorite Disney Channel original movies. Now, there were actually some really good ones. There was this one about this mummy called Under Wraps. If you haven't seen that, look it up. It is freaking hilarious. Another like lighthearted, good story, kind of spooky. Just, there were some good things going on in the 90s, even on the Disney Channel, believe it or not. If I hold my pinky out, it makes me fancy, right? Number 11, favorite music artist of the 90s. Wow. I loved so much music. I still love so much 90s music. I am not afraid to admit I'm pretty much stuck in the 90s. Like, it was just a great time for everyone, it seems like. In music, there was some really bad things that happened, but there were some really great things that happened too. But I guess my true favorites, even as a kid, Collective Soul, I was huge on. That was the first cassette I ever owned. Alice in Chains, Primus, Goldfinger, and Blink-182. In the 90s, they opened a lot of doors for me, and I still love those bands. Number 12, favorite Nick Jr. program. I was honestly a little bit old for Nick Jr., but Eureka's Castle was the shiznit, and if you have seen that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I wish I could find it now, because I bet you I would still be amused. Number 13, favorite candy. Razzles. Anybody remember Razzles? Came in a rectangular package, and when you first put them in your mouth, you could chew them like candy, but they slowly became gum, and they were just so delicious. I miss those things. Maybe there's somewhere I can find them still. I don't know. And also Fun Dip. I know you can still get Fun Dip, but when I was a kid, I was obsessed with eating the sticks. Like, number 14, favorite game, as in like board game, school game, that kind of thing. I really enjoyed me some Red Rover, and I was a huge fan of floor hockey in gym class. That was probably the thing I looked forward to the most. 15, favorite McDonald's Happy Meal. I really enjoyed the tiny Beanie Babies that they had. They were way back in the 90s. It had to have been the 90s because I was only in the 80s for 2 years, so it was definitely in the 90s. They were pieces of the Happy Meal, but you could like take them apart and they turned into like McDonald's characters or something. I'll try to find a picture. I don't know if I can, but they were just like really neat little like milk cartons that you could like flip around and they would be some kind of creature, have eyeballs or something. I don't know, it was really weird. But for some reason I enjoyed them. 17, favorite clothing store. I'm pretty sure that I refused to shop for clothing anywhere other than Limited 2 and Meijer as a kid. Like, I don't know why, but they had the most sparkly, bright, and colorful things, and that's just what I wanted. Question 18, what did I watch after school? I remember I would watch TRL to try to catch Blink-182 when they were huge for a minute there. After school's kind of foggy because I would usually get out on my bicycle and go do things with my friends after school. Maybe late at night I would watch all that. I think Legends of the Hidden Temple came on after school. I can't remember if that was like a morning, weekend, or after school thing. Not too sure. I had a life after school. There were 2 more questions I weren't sure were actually on the tag or not, so I'm just going to go ahead and answer them anyway. So 19, Halloween costume. I remember in the early 90s, all I wanted to be was Kimberly the Pink Ranger. I remember my dad got frustrated because he had to buy like 3 or 4 different costumes to fit me for the next year. For those 3 or 4 consecutive years, I had to be Kimberly. I was kind of a pale brunette little girl, and I was convinced that I was Kimberly. I was the oldest of 3 siblings, and the other 2 were boys, so I had to make sure that I could keep them in line. And I noticed that other people got questions asking what their favorite Nickelodeon cartoon was, and that's a little bit different for me. It's different than the shows. I mentioned Rocko's Modern Life earlier, but it really was one of my favorite Nickelodeon cartoons. Anybody remember this guy? This football head here? Move it, football head! Alrighty guys, well that's going to do it for my 90s tag. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope it helps you get to know me a little bit better. I think that this got me prepared to do the TMI tag, which Mel Beauties, I will leave her link down below. She tagged me to do that one, and I am really excited to do that now. So stay tuned, and I will see you all next time. Bye!